Hi everybody and welcome to AquaDream. I know you asked me so many times to make a video of all my tanks, and finally this day has come. And I'm ready to show all the tanks, even there are so many of them, but now I have time to film them, to talk about them. We are going to go through each one of them. I'm going to tell you about its age, the plants I used, the animals I have in there, and some issues that I currently have with some of them. So grab your coffee because it's gonna be a very long video. And maybe today I won't have enough time to film all of them, so I'm going to split these tanks into 2 days or maybe more, I don't know. Let's see how it goes. Alright guys, and the first tank, let's start with this low-tech ball tank. It's 26 centimeters in diameter. And this tank is almost a year, will be in March this year. And the plants I used here is the Himianthus pearlweed. It's one of the best fast-growing plants for low-tech tank. This plant is just amazing. And because this is the low-tech tank with no CO2, no filter, no fertilizers, this Himianthus pearlweed is growing just amazing. And after each trim, it recovers very fast. So it's just perfect plant for you to use. I also use some Cryptocarina, as I always say that Cryptocarina is a must plant in any low-tech tank, especially in tanks with no filter like this one, because Cryptocarina has a very good root system. It is a very hardy plant. It can grow, and it's low demanding plant. And with its strong root system, it's also very beneficial for the substrate, for the bacteria that lives in the substrate. So I always recommend to use at least one species of Cryptocarina in your low-tech scape. I also use some Bucephalandra, a little bit of there, and a little bit of Bucephalandra behind that pearlweed, but we cannot see it because everything is covered with the pearlweed. I actually trimmed this tank recently, like 2 weeks ago, I think, and you can see that pearlweed is already growing again. And as always for the substrate, I used just the regular aquarium soil, a mix of vermicasts, a little bit of coconut coir as well, and that's all. And of course, as I always do, is the first layer for the bacteria. I think I used here the fine lava rock as that base for the biological filtration. And here you can see at the bottom here I got a little bit of algae. I cannot get rid of that algae on that pebbles. They are mostly on the pebbles, so maybe next time I will just remove that pebbles and just put some new ones, because I can't clean all the pebbles here. And for those who is following me, as you know, I got a baby ember tetra in this tank by surprise. I never had that happen before, and yeah, that baby is still there. Well, it's hiding at the moment. You can see one ember tetra is there, so I have 2 adults and 1 baby tetra. I also got some Neocaridina shrimp here, and Nereid snails. I always use Nereid snails for every of my tanks. The light I used here is the same light as I use for all my ball tanks with the wooden stand, and here I use 9 baht, which is I think the reason why I got a little bit of algae. Even I have the pearlweed growing very fast, which is very beneficial for the whole ecosystem, but despite of that pearlweed, I got that a little bit of algae because I think there is too much light for this size. I would 7 or even 5 baht would be just enough for this tank. 9 baht is a little bit more than this tank needs. And if you're interested in the light with the wooden stand like this, you can find it in my storefronts through Amazon or AliExpress. The links will be in the description below. Alright, I think that's all for this tank. Still looking good, still fresh. Soon it will be a year old, so hope it will stay same beautiful. But of course, every tank requires regular care, so your tank can remain beautiful and healthy throughout years. And the next tank, also the same size as the previous one, it's a neighbor. They're right next to each other, you can see. And this tank is older. It's 1 year and 2 months old. Also, and as you might notice, previously there was a Physidis phantanus moss on the wood, but because it was growing and it was overgrown and I was lazy to trim it regularly, so that was actually my mistake. So if you have moss, just be ready that you have to trim it regularly so it grows well and it stays healthy. But because I didn't trim it, so it started growing with some algae on it, and it became such a mess. It covered all the plants, and the bottom of that moss was dead. It was like brown color, so I didn't want to trim it, and I didn't want to really deal with it, so I just removed it. And it still looks nice, but maybe I will put some fresh moss later here on the wood. But even without the moss, it looks fine. But just mosses, sometimes mosses can be a mess and can bring a mess to your tank. So if you have a moss, be sure you have time to take care of it and trim it regularly so it grows fine and doesn't create mess and algae. I actually need to do a big trim here because that nano Vallisneria here, you can see it started growing in the front, so I have to remove that Vallisneria and put it at the back because you can't really see the front plants here. But I use some Bucephalandra here, also some Anubias over there, a little bit of Cryptocorinna Becketti here, just small pieces. And the nice thing about Cryptocorinna Becketti is that in low-tech tank it grows completely different from the tanks with CO2. So with low-tech, with no CO2, it grows small, you can see, and with smaller, much smaller leaves, and it's much shorter, which is very nice. And I like to use that plant because it brings a little bit of reddish browny color to all other green plants. So I often use that Cryptocorinna. And as I said previously, Cryptocorinna is also a very beneficial plant. Also I use some Hylantium tinellum grass, also very beneficial, low-tech, fast-growing plant, carpet plant. So if you want a grassy tank, if you want to fast-growing, low-tech carpet plant, Hylantium tinellum is your choice. I often use Hylantium tinellum in my scapes, so I highly recommend you to also use it. And as I said, I used some Vallisneria nana, but I planted it at the back, so it started growing to the front, which I have to remove. I also used some Cryptocorinna benti, it's over there. And for the animals, I recently finally found my favorite raspberry fish, nana fish. You can see how small it is. It's even smaller than a shrimp. I also have one ember tetra over there and some shrimp as well, and nerate snails, of course. Here I used the same mixture substrate with the regular aquarium soil, a little bit of vermicast and a little bit of coconut coir as the bacteria base. Also used fine crumbs of lava rock. And I know I said that in some of my previous videos, but for those who did not watch my other videos, I will tell you again. I noticed that my filterless tanks, my low-tech tanks, where I used a little bit of coconut coir, I think these tanks are showing a pretty stable ecosystem. Of course, it is not the only thing that brings your tank stability, but it's, I think, one of the things, because coconut coir is also providing some nutrients for the plants. Coconut coir also lowers pH, and it also a good substrate for the bacteria as well. And for the light, here is the same light, also 9 watt here, and I don't have There are a little bit of algae on Bucephalandra, and I think this algae is caused by that mess from the moss that was previously there. And so I think after some time, this a little bit of algae, you can see. I'm going to go closer a little bit. I don't know if you can notice, but there are a little bit of hair algae on the Bucephalandra's leaves. And also this tank is more than a year ago, so after some time, like after a year, the plants are also slowing their growth. The substrate is getting older, and yeah, of course you can expect a little bit of algae because the plants are not as active growing as at the beginning. And also I used 9 baht light here, which is I think also a little bit too much for that size. I think 7 baht would be just enough for this size. I also have that house plant growing from this tank, and you can see I put just a little cutting from the beginning, and you can see that through a year it has grown pretty long. Look, it's going up there to the wall like that. Very nice. I also use some floating plants for every filterless tank because floating plants, especially at the beginning, especially the first few months when the tank is new, these floating plants are fast growing, so they help to cover the light a little bit. They also help to reduce nutrients in the water column, so they are actually very beneficial. Look at that raspberry, such a small cuties. I love them. So I finally found them in the aquarium store, and they were pretty cheap. They were like $2 for 30 pieces. So I got 60 of them. So I add a little groups to many of my tanks, because there is actually all species of raspberry are actually very hardy fish. And from my experience, this is the hardest fish I ever used. They are not demanding fish, not to the quality of water, not to the temperature of water, so I think can survive in any conditions. But of course, it is the best to provide the healthiest environment for the fish. And you can see the shrimp is over there, and the size of the raspberry, so it's even smaller than the shrimp. I love them, they're so cute, just perfect fish for nano tanks. Alright guys, now it's time for this tank. It's 50 centimeters long, and guys, this is one of the first tanks in my studio. So I created this tank in 2021. So it's actually 5 years old, guys. 5 years, can you imagine? It's so long, but still looking fine. I have algae issues here, some algae on the wood you can see over there, so I have to remove them every time I change water. Some algae appears on the Anubias, but it's completely fine because this tank is actually very old, and the substrate is also almost doesn't have nutrients. But even though you can see that the pearlweed is such a low demanding plant, even in such old aquariums, it grows very well. So previously, instead of that pearlweed, I first planted Vallisneria nana, and it was growing very good for the first like 2 years. But then it stopped growing because the substrate got old. But Vallisneria nana needs more nutrients, so I replaced that Vallisneria nana to this pearlweed, because I always have so much cuttings of that pearlweed from my other tanks, so I have to place them somewhere. I don't want to just throw it away and waste the plants, of course. So this tank is like in an island layout. Anubias still alive, Bucephalandra still alive, but doesn't look really healthy, not as colorful as it was at the beginning. Some Cryptic Arena as well over there, and in that corner And that fish is actually also 5 years old, guys. And the only one I have in this tank, and it doesn't look really healthy, but still active, but it looks old. And yeah, I think it might die soon. And of course, my plan is to rescape this tank soon. When exactly, I still don't know. When I have time, because I always want some new projects with new tanks, which are actually coming soon. I will soon create 2 big projects because I still have some empty space in my studio, which I want to cover with nature. For the filter, I use the hang-on filter. I use hang-on filter like this. It's a pretty nice filter. You can also find it in my storefronts. I think I only have this filter in my AliExpress storefront, but you can also check out the Amazon. Maybe I also have it there, I don't remember. And yeah, this is a very nice filter. I use it for many of my tanks, and it's very easy to use, and it's very nice actually. There are many containers inside, but I always upgrade this filter. I add different types of sponges. I add some lava rock or some balls for the bacteria colonies as well in one of the containers there. So it's a very nice filter, and that filter is 5 years old, and you can see it's still working well. The light I use here, guys, this light, I think it's 14 baht or something. This brand even doesn't exist anymore because it's very old. It's 5 years here, and yeah, it's still working well. But when I plan to rescape this tank, I will change the light to a new one. Yeah, I'm not gonna use the old one for the new scape. So this tank is in my list of rescaping it. Probably this year I will do it. And maybe I will still keep the same layout. Maybe I will still use the same black lava rocks like here. But just I want to use a different type of wood. And yeah, but I think I will still keep that island scape, which I really like. But for the new scape, I think this time I will also add substrate all around as well, and I will use some carpet plants because that is the low-tech tank with no CO2. I will probably use Elantium tinellum grass, or I recently used, as you know, for my last 2 ball tanks, instead of Elantium tinellum, I used Liliopsis, which is a very nice plant as well. But I think for the bigger tanks like this with filter, I think the Elantium tinellum would be more beneficial and will grow better in the bigger tanks. I think Liliopsis, it is not Liliopsis. I will show you Liliopsis very soon in my another tank. Alright, I think that's all for this tank. Nothing special, very old, still looking fine. But yeah, soon I will finally find time to rescape it. Alright guys, this is the next tank, a very ugly one. And guys, can you believe that this tank, when I created it in 2019, before the COVID. That is the first ever tank I created in Vietnam, and it's still here. I haven't rescaped it. So this tank is actually number 1 in my list of tank that I need to rescape. And yeah, it's so retiring. It's very tired. You can see that the Anubias there doesn't look good. It doesn't grow really well. Bucephalandra is still looking fine. There are some Cryptocarina at the back. But yeah, I think the substrate doesn't have any nutrients anymore. So the plants are, I think, getting all the nutrients just from water changes from the water column, but not from the substrate. I also added some raspberry here, and I got some shrimps here as well, and snails. But yeah, this tank is retired, and that will be the first one I will rescape. I also use the same hang-on filter as in the previous tank here. Also It's here in this tank since 2019, so it's 6 years and this filter still works well. The light I used here is the same light as in the previous tank. I don't even remember the name of the brand. This brand doesn't exist anymore. So it was actually cheap light. I always try to use something budget. I never use super expensive equipment, and yeah, so the spectrum of this light is the right spectrum for the plants, and over 5-6 years the plants were growing and feeling fine and still feeling fine. So that light is, that spectrum and intensity of the light is right for the plants. And guys, because this tank was the first one I made here as the base, the first layer for the bacteria colonies, here I actually used the expanded clay balls that you can get in the flower market. You can also use it as the base for the bacteria, and it works pretty well. This tank is 6 years old, and it's actually over these 6 years it was a very stable tank. So I think the filter, the bacteria colonies in the filter and in the substrate made this tank very stable. And for the substrate I also used some vermicast here, the regular aquarium soil, and I remember I added a little bit of flower fertilizer balls that you can also get in the flower market as an extra nutrients for your plants. Alright guys, I think that's all I wanted to say about this ugly one. Let's move to another one. Alright guys, and the next tank is that cubic tank. It's also very old one and also in the list of rescaping. And you know guys, I made this tank in 2021 and it's so stable. Over all these years, it's so stable, and it's still, like, you can see how much Bucephalandra is there. And it's still growing. Even it's so old, Anubias doesn't look nice anymore, but Bucephalandra is still growing. I got some Himianthus weed there, and I got some Anubias barteri, which wasn't growing for a year since I planted it, but then it started growing very fast, and it was actually beautiful here in its immersed form. But now you can see it doesn't look really fresh. I don't know, the light is really doesn't let you to see, but yeah, it grows immersed like this as well. So this tank is very stable. I have some shrimp here, I have some raspberry fish as well, recently added. The same substrate I used, I think, if I remember correctly, because it was long ago, I used the regular aquarium soil, a little bit of vermicast, and maybe just a little bit of fertilizer balls, flower fertilizers maybe. I don't really remember. Some river rocks there and the piece of wood where the Bucephalandra is growing. It's still stable, still looking fine, but also very retired. So really needs to be refreshed. And I think when I start rebuilding this tank, I think I'm gonna do another hardscape, and I will replace the rocks and the wood and do completely from scratch. For the light, I use the same light as my previous two old ones. I remember guys, so this light is called A1 Pro or something, but this brand doesn't exist anymore. But actually it doesn't matter what brand you use. It doesn't matter, it's not about the brand, it's about the right color spectrum, it's about the right intensity of the light. If you haven't seen my video I made about the light, you can find it in my channel. I talk about the light I use and the watts you need, the intensity and the color in that video. So go to my channel, find that video and watch it as well. And the same hang-on filter as in the previous two I use here. Also that filter is 5 years old, still working fine. And I don't even clean it for, maybe I clean the sponges in that filters maybe once a year or yeah, like once a year I open it. I replace only like first two white sponges, two new ones. All other sponges I just slightly clean in the same water from the tank, and that's all. And for the next year I don't touch it at all. Alright guys, right, this is the next tank, and I also made it in 2021 when I moved to that studio, and I wanted to create new tanks as fast as possible. And with this tank, to be honest, I don't like it since I made it because I used here the rocks I only had at that moment, and I needed to create something like right now. And I also used the piece of wood I also had, and that piece of wood I also don't like. And yeah, so this is a very mature tank, also low tech, no CO2, and very old, 5 years old, still fine. I used some Cryptocarina here, you can see some Anubias battery on the wood, some Anubias nano over there. Anubias nano looks very old, and some Cryptocarinas at the back. Hygrophila a little bit, and actually a very nice Anubias is growing over there. I'm going to show you closer. That Anubias, I think it's called lemon or something, like a light green color Anubias nana, and it grows very well at the top of that piece of wood. Still looking fine, but I don't like the hardscape, I don't like the shape. Really also wanna rescape this tank as soon as possible. I have some tetra you can see swimming there, and I have one algae eater and snails here, no shrimp in this tank. The same light as in the previous tanks here, also very old light here, and the same hang-on filter as I showed you previously. And as you noticed, I usually use the same list of low-tech plants, the plants that are perfect for low-tech tank. They are not CO2 demanding plants, so you can see even in the tanks like this, 5 years old, these plants are still feeling good, not as healthy and not as fast growing as when it's new, but still, if you use the right plants, you can be sure, and if you provide everything for the plant growth, you can be sure that these plants will grow and will be fine for years. Alright, let's move to this bowl tank. It's 35 centimeters in diameter, a big bowl tank, also no CO2, no filter, and this is one of the oldest bowl tanks in my collection. And I made this tank in September 2022, guys, and this is actually one of the oldest and still the healthiest tanks I have. And I think the reason of that is that I used the same mixture of the nutritious substrate here. I used also some vermicast, a little bit of flower fertilizer in the substrate, and regular aquarium soil. And I also used like 4 or 5 centimeters of sand, which is also beneficial for the tank since bacteria lives there as well. So I have a very thick, in total I have a very thick level of substrate here, which is beneficial for the ecosystem because all the bacteria lives there, and that bacteria is actually your filter for your filterless tank. For the first layer for the bacteria, I think I used river pebbles here. And river pebbles you can also use if you don't have lava rock or expanded clay. River rocks also a very good base for the beneficial bacteria colonies. And everything is covered with Himianthus pearlweed here. You can't really see all the plants here. I'm going to try to move a little bit to another angle. So I got that Himianthus pearlweed, I got that very old moss there. I think I'm gonna remove it as well. I don't trim it at all. There are some very nice Bucephalandra growing, and it's been growing very well. And the Bucephalandra here has been growing well, and it's much more Bucephalandra here now than it was at the beginning. If you can see, it's all over there. I also use some Cryptocarina here, And from the beginning, as the carpet plant, first I used the hair grass here, but in case of hair grass, if you want to have hair grass in your low-tech tank with no CO2, you can expect hair grass to grow very well, but not for a long time. Since in new tank there are a lot of nutrients available for the hair grass to grow, because hair grass is a nutrient demanding carpet plant, and there are also a lot of nitrogen in the new tank, which is also beneficial for the hair grass, and the level of naturally produced CO2 is also much higher than in matured and old tank. So the hair grass was growing in this tank, I think the first year very well, but then it stopped growing and eventually it died. So I added a little bit of Iwagumi long ago, still some of it you can see here. For the animals, I have also a tiny raspberry here, recently added as well. They're happy there. I have some shrimps there and snails. And I'm so happy with this tank. Even it's so old, it's still very stable. The only thing I do here is changing water, and even I started changing water in this tank only once every 2 weeks. Only changing water, add a little bit of bacteria after changing water, and the water conditioner, since I use tap water for my tanks. So yet I'm not planning to rescape this tank, even it's so old. I might only update it a little bit with the new moss, because that moss is a mess. I didn't trim it, so it became very messy. So I am going to remove all of that on the wood over there, and maybe leave it empty or replace it with another species of moss. Alright guys, let's move to this bowl tank. It's 25 centimeters or 22 centimeters in diameter. I think it's smaller than the first one I showed you, the first two ones. Yeah, and this one I created recently, last summer, so it's quite new and it's already overgrown. I used some Christmas moss here, the Gelanthum tinellum. You can see how grassy and greeny this tank is, and it's really overgrown with the moss. So I have to do that moss trimming, and guys, I'm so lazy to deal with the mosses. I really I should think twice every time I create a new tank. I should think twice whether I want to use moss or not, because moss really needs a lot of maintenance. You know, I have so many low-tech tanks, and with most of them I don't do anything except changing water. I don't even have to really trim them often, because everything in low-tech tanks grows slow. But here I used a lot of moss, and now you can see it's very mossy. Looks very nice. I like kind of overgrown tanks, but it covers everything, so kind of messy. Probably will do a heavy trim soon. I got some raspberry fish here as well, and some shrimp and some snails. I actually found one. Sometimes snails can go out of your tank, and that's completely fine. If you find the snails like I do here, hope it's still alive. So I just put it back into the tank. And you can find the video on my Instagram. I don't know if you can see it now, but that is how this tank looked in the first week and how it developed here. Beautiful. The light I use for this bowl is the same light with the wooden stand, and this light is 7 baht, and I don't have any algae issue here because as always I use a lot of plants, and this tank is new. The plants are growing very well in the new tank, so no algae issues at all. Even I think this 7 baht is a bit too much for that size. I would use 5 baht, but I only had 7 baht light at that moment, so it's good, it works. So other plants I use here, also some Cryptocarina over there, some Anubias behind the moss, you cannot see it, it's overgrown. Some also Cryptocarina species like this with long leaves growing from the bag, and a little bit of Echinodoros growing out of the tank. And for the substrate here, I used fine lava rock as the bacteria base. I used a mix of the substrate, the same mix, a little bit of coconut coir, a little bit of vermicast, regular aquarium soil, and sand as well. And I want to tell you about one thing that you might face in your new filterless tank, especially if you use sand in your tank. So in the first 1 or 2 weeks, I think the second week especially, you might notice that there are some black spots in your sand appeared. So this black spot, and when you change water, you might notice a smell like rotted egg smell, and that black spots in your sand, it's the hydrogen sulfide, the toxic chemical that is produced by a bad bacteria in your tank. And because the tank is new, the beneficial bacteria is still colonizing the tank, still doesn't really colonize and multiply and started working by removing all the toxins from the substrate. So that bad bacteria creates that waste with that hydrogen sulfide, and this hydrogen sulfide is very toxic. It might, in the first 2 weeks, it might affect also some of your plants. So if you notice that black spots, smelly like rotted egg smell, black spots, what I recommend you is, of course, immediately changing water and continue changing water every day. If you notice that some plants are melting because of that hydrogen sulfide, you can, of course, remove the melted leaves. And if the plant is completely melted, I recommend you to completely remove that, so it doesn't affect other plants and the whole ecosystem. But this hydrogen sulfide is the temporary issue in the new tank, so you will overcome that issue if you do everything right, if you change water regularly. You know that my schedule of changing water for my new filterless tanks, for actually every tank I make, I change water every day for the first 7 days. Then I start changing water every 2 days in the second week. The third week I can change water every 2 or 3 days, and from the fourth week usually I start changing water only twice or once a week. And so don't panic if you notice that hydrogen sulfide and black spots, that smell in your water. The only thing you can do is to change water every time you notice sometimes like a white clouds in the water column. That is also the sign of that hydrogen sulfide. Of course, changing water add beneficial bacteria. Water conditioner, if you use tap water, just continue doing the same thing, and most of your plants will survive, will overcome, and eventually these bad bacteria's toxic chemicals will be removed and will disappear, and the plants will start growing in their full potential, will be healthy, and the whole ecosystem will be stabilized. So just observe your plants, observe your water first 4 weeks, especially first and second week. Right, let's move to this ball tank, very old one as well, and very messy and ugly, really retired and needs to be rebuilt. I used, you can see a lot of moss here, and this moss doesn't look fresh anymore. Some Anubias over there and Cryptocarina, and that's all the plants I used here. I don't really like the hardscape here, especially now. It doesn't look really attractive after years. I think I made this tank in 2023, and yeah, still here, still fine, but needs to be refreshed, completely rebuilt. and with the new hardscape, because I'm not happy with that one. I got some shrimp in there, some snails as well. The same light I used here, this light is 7 baht for that size, actually too much. I would recommend using 5 baht for that size. Alright guys, let's move to this bowl. I really like it. This bowl is shorter and wider at the top, so it's more like a Paludarium bowl, which I made as a Paludarium. I used a big piece of wood, which is actually created in the first 4 weeks. It created a lot of problems with the water quality, because that wood started making water toxic and smelly, and with lots of tannies. But again guys, first 4 weeks, just remember that frequent water changes will help you to overcome all the issues in the first 4 weeks, like toxic ammonia, hydrogen sulfide, and excess nutrients, because plants are still not growing in your new tank. They are still adapting to a new environment. The bacteria colonies are still settling, they're still not in your substrate. Only bad bacteria is working immediately and creating all of that toxins, the substrate creating excess nutrients and ammonia spikes. So frequent water changes always help you to stabilize and to cycle your tank. So once you do everything right, and with regular water changes, adding bacteria, water conditioner, after 4 weeks, even by the 3rd week, you will see that the water is crystal clear, everything is stabilizing, the plants have started growing. Just this, especially first 2 weeks, are so important. You have to help your plants to adapt, to start growing in the fresh new water and clean water. So observe your tank every day, change water every day. If needed to change water every day in the 2nd week, do it. If the water is smelly, if the water is bad, change water, and always add bacteria and water conditioner. At least I do it and it helps me. So this tank, also pretty old. I think it's 2 or 3 years old. That was actually one of the first bowls I made here in Vietnam, but then I rescaped it 2 or 3 years ago, and I really like it now. I really like the scape, I really like that piece of wood here, a little bit of Paludarium style. I really love that that Bucephalandra growing there very nicely, and some Vallisneria is growing to the front. I need to remove it, or it's Sagittaria. I don't even remember what I used here. I think it's Sagittaria. And here immersed plants are some Mordania Kaysak, and this plant, don't remember the name. Guys, don't want to Google it. I forgot the name of this plant. Message me in the comment. Really cannot remember now. But this plant is very nice for Paludarium, growing immersed very well. In low-tech tank, this plant can be used only in its immersed form. Submersed doesn't really grow well, but immersed, very nice. And for this tank, I use the same light with stand, and this light is only 5 baht. And it's a little bit angled like this to only provide most of the light for the immersed plants, because all of the submersed plants, like some Anubias over there and Bucephalandra, they're not high light demanding plants, so the light they get in this tank is enough for them. I only have some shrimps and snails in this tank. I think you can see the shrimp over there. You can see some other shrimps somewhere hiding. That is only shrimp tank. I like it. Looks very nice. Looks very natural. Nothing really special. No special plants, no special scale, but looks very natural. I really like it. Alright guys, let's move to this teeny tiny bowl. And guys, I don't know if you can believe that, but this small ecosystem, only 17 centimeters in diameter, this tank is not 5, yes, it's almost 5 years old, guys. So previously there was hair grass here growing. I think, yeah, that was only hair grass tank previously, and it was growing beautifully and very nice. But back then I made a very big mistake with that tank. So previously I was experimenting with liquid fertilizers for my low-tech tanks. I thought maybe I should try adding a little bit of liquid fertilizers, but I try to use different liquid fertilizers for all my low-tech tanks every time I get algae. So I learned that for your low-tech tank you don't need the liquid fertilizer. Once you provide the nutritious substrate, that is enough for your tank to live for years. If you start adding liquid fertilizers, you will get algae, because liquid fertilizers needs to be absorbed fast by plants. But since this is no CO2 tank, no filter, low-tech tank, and plants are growing slower, much slower than in high-tech tanks, they don't have enough time to absorb all of that nutrients from liquid fertilizers. And who will absorb that nutrients? Of course, algae. Algae are always waiting for excess nutrients to grow. So I never use any liquid fertilizers for my low-tech tanks, because I learned this is a bad idea and you will deal with algae. But what mistake I had with that beauty small ecosystem, when there was hair grass growing beautifully with the shape like that all over in the front like this and at the back, I wanted to try to add some iron. I had a liquid iron, and I added it too much, and I thought, well, it's just iron, that's fine. Well, I added a bit too much, so my hand was shaking, so I added like twice more or even triple. And next day when I came back to the studio, all the plants were dead. The hair grass were dead. The hair grass was dead, completely melted. So that excess of iron was toxic for the plants, and I was so sad about that. So what I did not rescape this tank completely from scratch. I kept the same substrate and the sand here, the same hardscape, everything the same. I just removed all the dead plants. The water was so smelly and toxic because all the plants were melted. So I removed everything. I changed water 3 times 100%. And then I just replanted it with some Cryptocarina parva over there, with a little bit of Monte Carlo, you can see at the bottom over there, and with the Himianthus sparrowweed. And since then, it happened like 3 years ago, and since then this tank is so stable, still beautiful, with the same substrate. So since 2021, this 5 years old tank, look at this whole small ecosystem. I only have shrimps here. Hope they're there. No, of course, when I film, nobody is there. Nobody wants to show up. Everyone is hiding. That's why some of my subscribers think that I only grow plants in my tanks, but I actually have shrimps, fish, and snails there. Every time I film, you can notice one shrimp over there at the bottom. If you can see the movement, it's right there. You can see it's over there. So I have shrimps there. Right. I love this tank. Tiny, beautiful. Sometimes, of course, I have to trim the Himianthus sparrowweed, but you can see the pearlweed is just perfect for the low-tech filterless tanks, especially because I noticed that pearlweed doesn't really like the water movement from the filter, so it grows so well in filterless tanks when the water doesn't move. And even this substrate is so old. The tank, look, it's the size of my hand. This tank is so tiny, and the substrate is so old. Look at the Himianthus sparrowweed. The Monte Carlo is still there. The Cryptocarina parva is still there. Everything is so stable. Still, I don't even want to rescape this tank. And the light I used here is the same one with 7 watt actually, guys. This is too much actually for that size of the tank, but the reason I don't have any algae issues here is because I have a lot of fast-growing Bucephalandra. If I would use only Anubias or Bucephalandra here with that light intensity, I would have algae issue. So for this size, I would recommend 3 to 5 baht only. Let's move to this small Paludarium bowl tank, also filterless, low-tech, and I really like the result after it has been growing, and it just looks so natural, so beautiful. I really like it. I rescaped this tank. It was the first bowl I made in Vietnam before, and it was retired and didn't grow anymore. So I rescaped it like 6 months ago, and look at that beauty. So I used some cryptocarina here, a bit of Tilapia tinellum over there. There are only shrimps, and look at all of that immersed plants. I'm going to show you closer. Look at this fern. It's been growing very well. Look at that. I just planted a little piece. You can find the build video on my channel. And I just planted the piece of that fern like this. Look at that hat. I also got some Ludwigia grows immersed here. I also got that plant again. Guys, don't remember the name of that plant. Also grows very well in its immersed form. I also got some Ficus pumila here. And if you watched the build video of this tank, I was worrying about the begonia plant that I planted, and since this fern has been growing so wide, it covered completely the light for that begonia. I thought begonia will not survive, but the plants are so amazing. They will always find the way to the light. Look, that is that begonia. It's still there. It's still trying to, it got longer. It's still trying it's still trying to grow up and find the way to the light, but it's still alive. I'm so happy about that. That begonia is so cute. I also use some Anubias as immersed form here. And if you want to use Anubias for the immersed form, the best species is Anubias nano petite. And you also have to be sure that the roots of the Anubias are constantly in water or on the part of the wood where it's moist, where it's wet, so the Anubias can get enough moist, enough water to stay immersed and to not dry up. Some leaves a little bit dried up here, but overall it looks healthy and nice. Really like this tank. Alright, and the next bowl tank is also one of the oldest. This tank is almost, I think, 3.5 or 4 years old. Still looking fine, but yeah, I think I will soon rescape it. And this tank is also very since the beginning. So to achieve the stability for your tank, especially for your filterless tank, you have to follow some keys. The first key is you have to provide enough nutrients in your substrate for the plants to grow. You have to provide home for the bacteria as the layer for their colonies in the substrate. The level of the substrate should be 4 to 5 centimeters or more, depends on the size of your tank. And also you have to provide enough plants. You have to heavily plant your aquarium. You have to use the right plants, the low-tech plants, the hardy plants. You have to use some cryptocarina, that is very essential. And once you have a mass of plants and you provided the food for the plants, you provided home for the bacteria, your tank will be stable for years. And this is a very good example. This tank is very old and very stable since the beginning. I don't have any issues still with that tank. Recently I added some raspberry there. There is also one ember tetra and some shrimp and snails. The plants I used in this tank are some Anubias, some Java fern, the Cryptocarina parva over there, a bit of Cryptocarina, some Echinodorus growing out there, and a bit of Rotala growing immersed over there. It stopped growing submersed, and if you want to use red Rotala, which is a high demanding plant, it requires CO2 injection, it requires nutritious substrate, it requires good lighting. But you can also use Rotala red in your low-tech tank, but you have to notice that Rotala red will grow well and will look healthy and red and very nice, but not for a long time. Once your substrate get older, once all the nutrients in the water column drop down, once the CO2 naturally produced CO2 is also dropping down, the high level is also not as it is at the beginning. The Rotala eventually stop growing and doesn't look attractive. It doesn't look really healthy red, especially after like 4 or 5 trimmings. It cannot get enough CO2 and nutrients to recover after trimmings. So I don't recommend you to use Rotala in your low-tech tank. This is not the right plant to use. Anyways, I used a little bit of Rotala here. Its immersed form doesn't grow anymore, but there is one piece growing out of the tank, the only one I have left. I also used some cereal rocks here and a piece of wood over there. So this tank still healthy. Don't do anything with that, only changing water once every 2 weeks because it's very matured tank. Alright, let's move to this teeny tiny ecosystem. Actually, it's also very old, guys. It's like 4 years old, and for the plants there are only some Cryptocarina parva at the back. I don't even have snails there anymore. I don't have shrimps there anymore. This tank is just living its life. No really algae issues. The ecosystem here is very stable, very matured, very good bacteria colonies here. Even I don't have any shrimp. It's still looking good, and the biosystem is stable. But yeah, it needs to be rebuilt. But since this size is so small, I would make it maybe Iwagumi style with some Monte Carlo in the future. Alright, let's move to this big bowl. It's 35 centimeters in diameter and it's completely filled and overgrown with Hemianthus pearl wheat. And I do trimmings, and I did trimmings many times already, and this tank is also like 3 years old, and as you can see the pearl wheat is still growing very well. Even the substrate is old and I need to really trim it because you can't see anything except pearl wheat here. It's completely green bowl. And you often ask me where do I get these big bowls, and I buy it locally here in Hanoi, and the only bowl aquarium that you can order to your country is small ones up to 25 centimeters in diameter that you can find in my storefronts. The big glass bowls probably is impossible to deliver to other countries. I'm not sure if any sellers could do that, but you can contact the seller through my links in my storefronts and maybe ask the seller if they have the bigger bowl and if they can deliver it to your country. Maybe they could, but you should understand that the big glass bowl is kind of very fragile thing to deliver to other countries. So I'm not sure. Maybe they sell it, but only wholesale, because here in Vietnam, I think they all get these big bowls from China. Vietnam is close to China, so it's not really damaging to deliver it, but I'm not sure about other countries. So you could try to contact the seller directly and ask if they could deliver a bigger bowl for you. So here I used the Himianthus pearlweed. There are some Anubias, some Cryptocarina at the back, you cannot see it. And I also have a lava rock behind, which was covered with the moss. And again, I didn't trim that moss, and then it became very messy, so I removed it. Now the rock there is completely naked. Yeah, and there are some shrimps and some raspberry. Nano raspberry, my favorite ones. And of course you cannot see anything except pearlweed, not even shrimps there. Just one shrimp, please say hello to us. Well, nobody is there, everyone is hiding, everyone is shy. The same light I used here, this light is 9 baht. 9 baht for this size is enough for the plants to grow. And for the substrate, you can see the substrate is quite thick here, maybe like 7 centimeters. The same mix I used here for the bacteria colonies. I used, I think, river pebbles, if I remember correctly. Yeah, and you can see this tank is actually pretty stable. No big issues over 3 years with that tank. Alright, let's take a look at this last project I did. You can find that last video on my channel. I made 2 balls at the same time, and I call them twins, just like me and my sister. So this is the ball, my sister ball, filled with Bucephalandra. Here I actually used, instead of Elanchium tinellum, this time I tried to use the Leleopsis, and I really love that Leleopsis. It doesn't grow as fast as Elanchium tinellum, but it also doesn't create too much grassy and too high as Elanchium tinellum. So it looks actually very balanced. It keeps growing like small, high size. It doesn't spread too much, so it creates a really nice natural foreground. So Leleopsis is also a low demanding plant, does not need the extra CO2 injection, but it needs nutritious substrate. So this tank is only 3 weeks old. It's pretty new. The cycle is almost done. And with this sister tank, I also used the Christmas moss over there and immersed plants like Hygrophila pinnatifida and Javathern. Hygrophila pinnatifida, I noticed that it grows very well in its immersed form in low-tech tank, so I tried it because I have that Hygrophila pinnatifida in my high-tech tank in immersed form, and I thought maybe it grows well because I got CO2 there. So I wanted to try it in low-tech tank, and you can see the Hygrophila grows very well in its immersed form. I'm not sure if it would grow without, I'm not sure if it would grow in its submersed form with no CO2, but immersed form, it's pretty happy. And I really like the scape I made here. It looks so beautiful. That piece of wood is so nice, and I'm so glad I chose this small species of Bucephalandra. Don't remember the exact name of that species, but this small species of Bucephalandra is very hardy Bucephalandra, so you can use it in your low-tech tanks. Also, Bucephalandra is not demanding plant at all, very slow growing plant, and because it's slow growing, I provided some faster growing plants like Leleopsis and Cryptocarina behind there, Cryptocarina benti, and some immersed plants. So you can see that it's quite heavily planted. That's why it's only 3 weeks old and it's already very stable. Actually, this tank is very stable from the beginning. I didn't have any issues, even didn't have any brown algae in the 2nd week. I usually don't have any algae spikes, as usually it happens in the 2nd week, like brown algae. My small filterless tanks, they don't have any algae spikes in the 2nd week because the ecosystem is pretty small. and it's heavily planted, so there is no way for any algae to grow. Yet I only have the nereid snails here, but I will wait for 1 or 2 weeks more and I will get some shrimp and hopefully some nano raspberry for this tank. And this is my tank, the brother tank, filled with Anubias nano petite instead of Bucephalandra, also Leleopsis, some Cryptocarina behind. I also got some Java moss here, and for the immersed plants here also Eager Philippinity feeder and Java fern. Also pretty happy with that scape, looks very nice, very natural. But if sister's tank was very stable from the first day, no issues at all, this tank had issue with hydrogen sulfide, a toxic chemical that I mentioned about before. So that toxic chemical appeared in the substrate and it was smelly, the water was smelly and with some white little clouds there, you can see. And also, I don't know why, only in this tank there are some baby mosquito here. In the sister's tank there is no baby mosquitoes at all, but here you can see that they're trying to grow in this tank. Hopefully I won't have mosquitoes in my studio, I usually don't have it. So soon when I add maybe some fish here, hopefully they will eat them. For now I only have snails here. So about the hydrogen sulfide, this tank was actually had issue with the hydrogen sulfide in the second week, and so black rotted egg smell spots were appeared, a bit of like white cloud. Next day when I came was in the water column, so I had to continue changing the water, adding bacteria and water conditioner, and so that hydrogen sulfide affected 2 bushes of Leleopsis, and Leleopsis melted, and the roots of that Leleopsis were black, so I completely removed that 2 bushes. All other Leleopsis survived, they stayed healthy, and that hydrogen sulfide is gone. So now the substrate is clean, there are no black spots anymore. This issue is over, and the tank is stable now and healthy, so the cycle is almost done as well. So I'm so happy with these 2 new balls. They look so awesome. They look similar, they look same but different. Same as me and my sister. We were born on the same day, but we are completely different. Now let's take a look at these 4 small cubes. They are 20 by 20 centimeters, very small cubes, and they are 1.5 years old. I used a small hang-on filters for each one of them. Actually this size for the low-tech tank does not really need a filter. You could have the same tank with no filter, same as my bowls. But the reason I used these small filters here is just because I had one and I didn't use it for a very long time and I wanted to use for something. So the first cubic I created, I used that filter, so I decided they all have to look the same. So I got 3 other filters like this for other 3 cubes. So I made them almost the same time, so they are all 1.5 years old. Let's take a closer look. Let's look at the first cubic. So here I used some Bucephalandra, you can see there, and some on the wood, some Cryptocarina, some wood, and small pieces of cereal rock. That's all. And since there are plenty of plants and the tank is very small, this tank is pretty stable. I also added some nano raspberry there, and there are also some yellow new Caridina shrimp in this tank. You can see them now. Okay. And this is another cubic. I also used some Java fern here, some Bucephalandra on the wood, and some Cryptocarina behind it. And now this tank is showing a bit of algae issues. I think for this cube, actually for all these 4 cubes, my mistake is I did not provide enough level of nutritious substrate for the plants. So after 1.5 years, the plants are not showing really growth, and that is the reason of some algae growing here. So next time, if I make such a small aquarium, I have to remember that the nutritious substrate should be at least like 3-4 centimeters covered with the sand if you want to use sand. So that should be enough for the long-term plant growth. I also have some raspberry and some neocaridina shrimp, red one over there, and I think there was some yellow one as well. This is another one with the black lava rock. Himianthus pearlweed, overgrown. I need to trim it. You cannot really see the piece of wood is over there. There's also a little bit of hair algae. I also didn't provide enough nutritious substrate for the plants here, which was my mistake. But still, plants are growing, but not as good as they would if I would provide enough nutrients. And the last one with some river rocks with the sand. Here it's pretty stable because I also used a thick layer of sand, which is very beneficial as well. And I got a lot of Anubias there and at the back, also pearlweed and a bit of Hylangium tinellum, just small, you can see small bushes there. And I need to really clean the filter because it doesn't really working now. I think it's full of dirt, so I need to change some sponges. There I also upgraded these filters, so they come with just standard a piece of white sponge, but I upgraded it. I added some matrix. I had some matrix. I added different types of sponges. So I always upgrade all my filters because the sponges and all the media that comes with the filter when you buy it, it is not enough for a good filtration. Even for such a small filters like this, it's better to upgrade it and improve your filtration. But again, for this size of these tanks, you can 100% use and have it with no filter, because such small ecosystem doesn't really need a filter. If you provide enough plants for it, if you provide your biological filtration in the substrate for the bacteria colonies, then everything will be the same fine. That filter is not really doing big job. Yes, it provides a bit of water flow, but again, if you have enough plants, you don't even need the water flow. The oxygen exchange will be enough with big amount of plants, and so the filtration would be provided by the plants and by the bacteria in the substrate. Right guys, it's time for this beast. This is 110 centimeters long river tank, one of my favorite creations. I'm so satisfied with the hardscape I made here. I have some black neon tetra living there. I also had some catfishes, but you know, catfish is not hardy fish. They get sick easily from the substrate, from the pebbles, and so they eventually all died. So I don't want to add any catfish anymore. They're very demanding fish, not hardy at all. But look at this, look at these rocks, look at this piece of wood. Everything looks so balanced, so natural. No algae almost at all. There are some still brown algae appeared on the wood over there. I don't know what kind of algae is that, but you can see overall it's very clean, very healthy, because there is not much light in this part, so there is no really good place for the algae to grow. That's number one. Number two, I provided a good biological filtration in the substrate for the bacteria, so there are lava rock, fine lava rock as the base layer, and lots of sand with pebbles, which is also beneficial for the bacteria colonies. Also the plants here are only immersed plants. I used some Bucephalandra there, it's like half immersed, half submersed, and lots of Mordania, Kisak, Java fern, Overgrown, immersed. And I only provided the nutritious substrate in that corner only for the immersed plants. And since the Mordania Kisak is growing pretty fast and it's a great plant for the immersed form, so it sucks all the nutrients from the substrate and from the water column, so there is no way for algae growth. Algae just don't have any chance to get any excess nutrients and grow. Also, there is not much light here, so an algae like excess of light. So all the light that comes from these two lights, that light is only just for shimmering effect, and that light is for the plant, for the immersed plants, and all the Mordania Kisak gets all that light for growth, so there is no way for algae to get any excess of light. Also, the build of this tank you can find in my channel, and the filter I use here is the same hang-on filter like this. I also upgraded it, added some different sponges, added some bacteria media in it, and it works very well. That size of the filter for that long aquarium, you can see it creates that river flow. It's enough power to filter it. Also, all of that immersed plants also filtering water, making it clean and healthy. That light I used here is actually not the aquarium light. You can find this light in my storefront, in AliExpress storefront. You have to buy the stick separately from the light bulb, and that light bulb gives the right spectrum for the plant growth, 6.5 thousand Kelvin, just as all my lights, natural sunlight spectrum. This is the right spectrum for the plant growth. So you can also get that light through the links. This light is 35 watt, and since it's like spotted light, so it only shines on the immersed plants. And as you can see, all the plants are so happy with that light. This Mordania Kisak, I trimmed it. Since I built this tank, I trimmed it already like 3 times. And once I cut, all the cuttings I just place back there. But I always have to be sure that all the cuttings are, all the ends of cuttings, they are not rooted yet, but I have to be sure I place them in the water. So they can be immersed. The rest of the stem can be immersed, but you have to be sure that the roots, the end of the stem is placed in water. Then it will become rooted pretty fast and start growing again. So I only have black neon tetra here and snails. No shrimps here. I think for the river tank, shrimps wouldn't look natural. So I only keep this tetra here. And the black neon tetra actually pretty hardy fish, so even better than neon tetra, the blue and red color. So these ones are better fish. They don't get sick, and they are still very healthy and very active, always waiting for the food, always hungry, always happy when I feed them. Actually, let's feed them now. And I want to show you the feeder I use. So this is actually the pepper and salt grinder that you can find in any, I think in any marketplaces. You can order it instead of buying much more expensive aquarium tool like this. It's the same one, but I don't know, 5 times cheaper. So I got it from the marketplace. This is the pepper grinder, and it works very well, very convenient for me to quickly feed all the fish in all my tanks. So let's do it. Look at them, so hungry. Even if I would feed them every day, which I don't, I usually feed my fish once every 2 or 3 days. But if I would feed them every day, they would be still so hungry. Look at them, crazy. So for the nutritious substrate, the same one I used only, as I said, in that corner, only for the immersed plants. So I used the regular aquarium soil, a bit of vermicast. I think I also did a bit of coconut coir, and that's all I used here. So it's enough for the immersed plants, more than enough. Alright guys, let's take a look at the next tank. This is the 25 centimeters cube tank, Iwagumi style, no filter and no CO2. As I said before, I used Monte Carlo here as a carpet plant, and as I said before, Monte Carlo can grow in small ecosystems with no CO2. Monte Carlo is not really high demanding plant. Of course, with CO2 it will grow much more dense and colorful and much faster. But here no CO2, and you can see all of these bubbles. You can see that photosynthesis is happening, and I took this tank, so I made this last summer, so it took it maybe 3 months to fully cover the carpet, and as you can see, this carpet is pretty nice. You see there are some gaps where Monte Carlo is still recovering after, you can see there are some gaps where Monte Carlo is not looking very well, because some of the bushes I planted they weren't really fresh and healthy, but some new leaves, I'm waiting when some new leaves will cover all of that gaps. There are also just a little bit of algae, I will show you. You can see here there are a little bit of algae, like brown algae. I don't know what type of algae is that, but it looks brown. It's not much, and I think shrimp love it and they eat it, and so that is the only small issue I have here. Initially I planted just Monte Carlo, but maybe a month later I decided to get some hair grass at the back, so it looks behind the rocks. And also hair grass you can also use for your low-tech tank with no CO2, but again it won't grow as dense as with CO2. It won't spread all around the tank, it won't spread fast, it won't grow fast with no CO2. So all the low-tech tanks with no CO2 always take time to develop, and you have to be patient. I got some Neocaridina shrimp here, you can see some nereid snails, and I got a few small tiny nano raspberry there. You can see they're swimming, 1, 2, 3 or 4 of them there. The water here is actually crystal clear, but the glass is not crystal clear. I tried to, so I had this fish tank for a very long time, and over time it got that white layer on the glass, which I tried to clean using different things like vinegar. I also used some glass cleaners, chemicals. Nothing helped. I also used like a special sponge to scrub it and to try to remove it, but well, it got better, definitely better, but still the glass itself is not crystal clear. For the substrate here, I also used fine lava rock as the base. Actually, I experimented with this tank. I made a mix of fine lava rock, a bit of river pebbles, and I think a little bit of sand as the base. But I would recommend you to use just something. But I recommend you to use either only lava rock or only river pebbles, or only expanded clay. I noticed that mix with the sand, the cycle process was harder than usually it gets, because sand makes the substrate very dense, and so all the toxic chemicals and gases cannot escape the tank easily. So better to just use lava rock or river pebbles. For the nutritious substrate, I used again the regular aquarium soil. I used clay-based substrate, which is sold locally. I used a bit of vermicast, and actually for this tank I used vermicast and a little bit of coconut coir as well. For the light, and the light I use here is the same light with the wooden stand, the same as I used for my bowl tanks, and this tank is 7 baht, and you can see that this is enough for the carpet plant, for the Monte Carlo to develop and to grow. Now the Monte Carlo is. So now Monte Carlo is fully grown. I really like this corner here because Monte Carlo here looks very fresh, dense and green. So I hope all of that leaves will also cover some not good gaps here. So really simple, very budget scape, no extra gear, not expensive stuff, and beautiful, simple Iwagumi scape that you can also have. If you haven't watched the build video of this tank, you can also find it on my channel. Alright, let's take a look at this huge cube tank. It's 60 by 60 centimeters and 45 centimeters tall. And last summer in June I rescaped this tank. Before it was with a different hardscape, but it was old, 2.5 years, and the plants didn't look really well, and I wasn't satisfied with hardscape, so I rescaped it, and now it's fully matured, fully grown, and I'm so happy with that scape. It looks so natural. I used a huge log over there, and my mistake was when I built the hardscape, I thought that this huge piece of wood would be heavy enough so it won't float. So I didn't glue it to any rocks, so I just placed it into the substrate. But once I started filling up the tank with water, this huge log wanted to escape and wanted to float. Thankfully, I noticed that immediately, so I stopped it from floating, otherwise the whole hardscape would be destroyed. And so what I did is I put that huge piece of rock on it, and it's still there. So the log so this tank is already so this tank is almost 8 months old now. So it's fully matured and grown. When I first planted it, it didn't look balanced. All the plants were different shape, different size. They didn't really match each other in their size, but I knew they will change over time. I knew already how this tank will look in the future. And there it is, and it looks very balanced and natural now. So nature always knows how to make the overall look balanced and beautiful. This tank is also low-tech tank with no CO2. The light I'm using here is Big Aqua Light 90 watt, and the only filter I use here is one filter, which is under over there. If you can see it, it's there. The only filter I use, it's I think 1,000 liters per hour. That's all, no extra gears needed. And again, I used all the hardy plants, all low-tech plants for this tank. Here are Sagittaria as the carpet plant, also Vallisneria nana. You can see how beautifully it grows in that corner, and some smaller branches are growing here. Recently I started removing these branches from the front and replace them back to the back, but it grows to the front again, but it's not as long as it was the first time, so it looks kinda grassy together with Sagittaria. I also use some Anubias nana petite, some Bucephalandra there, some Java fern, and of course Cryptocorinnas. I used Cryptocorinna Venti and Cryptocorinna Becketti. I'm going to show you the Cryptocorinna Becketti because that Cryptocorinna looks completely different in low-tech tank comparing with its look in high-tech tanks. You can see this Cryptocorinna Becketti here. It gives this like brownie red color to the scape, and in low-tech tank it grows short and with small leaves, which is very nice. You can use it as also as foreground plant or like middle plant. And when you buy this plant in its immersed form, it actually looks different. It has longer stems and leaves, and the leaves are green, but after some time it changes to this color and it becomes shorter. In aquariums with CO2, this Cryptocorinna grows much more different, it grows much longer and bigger, and the color is also different. I will show you later. For the substrate here, I also used the same mix with the bacteria biological filtration base, and you can see the substrate here is very thick, which gives that stability to that ecosystem. The bacteria lives in that thick substrate. It also provides all the nutrients for the plants to grow for a long period of time. Here I have snails, as always, some Neocaridina shrimps. You can see them there. They love climbing on the Vallisneria here. I also got some tetra fish right there swimming. I might add some raspberry if I find to this tank. I think this tank needs one more group of nano fish. That would look very nice. I don't have any serious issues with this tank. It's very healthy, very stable. Just a little bit of cladophora algae appears over time between the Vallisneria stems, but it's easily removed by hand, so not a big issue. I recently tried to remove that big rock from this log, but still it moves a little bit from the substrate, so I'm afraid of removing that rock, because if that log will float, you can imagine that the whole scape will be completely destroyed. So I think I will keep that rock. And if you want to see the build video of this tank, you can also find it on my channel. And the next tank is that 30 centimeters cube tank. It's very old, also very matured. I made it in June 2023. Also no CO2. Here I use the hang-on filter, the same as I showed you before. And the light I use here is Chihiro's A2 series. And yeah, this tank is very matured and now it's so stable. No big issues here. I've got some. The only issue I have here is a bit of algae on the top of the wood, I think from excess lighting from that lamp. But overall, this ecosystem is very stable. Even it's so old, the plants are still looking fine. I got pearlweed as background plant here. I got some Anubias, Bucephalandra there, and a little bit of Elanchium tinellum right there. And also some Anubias nana on the wood. For the animals, I got some tetras, you can see, ember tetra, some yellow Neocaridina shrimp, and snails. So even this tank is so old, it's still so stable and still looks pretty, so I do not plan to rescape it yet. For the substrate, I used the river pebbles as the bacteria base. I also used the same mix. I also used the same substrate mix, regular aquarium soil. I think I used vermicast. I think I used a little bit of flower fertilizers and the sand. And the thickness of the substrate at the back is about 7 to 8 centimeters. It's quite tall, which creates that also beneficial bacteria colonies in that substrate, and that creates a stable ecosystem. And now let's take a look at this big 45 centimeters in diameter ball tank, which I rescaped about 6 months ago. Before I used the same piece of wood. It was before there was the same piece of wood and the rocks, so the hardscape was the same. I just completely removed the old substrate. I added some extra bacteria layer and the fresh substrate and the new plants. And for the plants, I used a lot of Elanchium tinellum here. There are lots of Bucephalandra, lots of Anubias nanopetit, some Java fern, the Hemianthus pearlweed at the back, some Cryptocarina as well. And at the moment this tank got a little bit of hair algae on plant leaves. I'm going to show you closer, I don't know if you can see there are a little bit of algae, and I think the reason of that algae is that I planted the Hylantium tinellum grass very densely. I planted a lot from the beginning, and that was, I think, my mistake, because Hylantium tinellum grows very fast. It's spreading around the tank very fast as well. So you actually don't have to plant it too heavily. You have to leave enough space for that hair grass to spread and to continue growing. But because I planted it very densely, and at the beginning it was growing very dense bushes all around the tank, and then because there was no more space for that tinellum to grow, I think it started dying, and lots of leaves started melting, and so that caused a lot of waste, which caused that algae growth. What I did is I changed water and tried to remove as much dead leaves as possible to leave the space for new growth. And I think in a couple more weeks, I think the ecosystem will be stabilized and algae will gone, because the tinellum will have more space for growth, new leaves will appear, and all the old leaves, melted leaves, will be removed from the tank. I think that is the reason of that algae growth here. Or the second reason might be is that I actually switched changing water in this tank once every 2 weeks instead of every week. But I think it was also my mistake, because this tank is not really matured. It's still, I would say, young, and it's also filterless tank. So if you have the filterless tank and it's young, I recommend you to still continue changing water regularly every week if you want your aquarium to stay healthy and stable. So I think that is the reason of algae growth as well. So now I'm trying to change water here every week. I not always have time to do that, but I do my best. So let's see how it goes. It's not critical, not like all over the tank, but I don't really like that this like a bushy hair algae covering some leaves of Bucephalandra doesn't look really nice. But hopefully it will go soon. And you can see the substrate here is very thick. It's maybe 10 or 15 centimeters thick, filled with fine lava rock as the first layer, then nutritious substrate, and the sand. The sand is 4 or 5 centimeters thick, but to be honest, I don't recommend you to add sand too much thick, because again, it creates a very dense environment. So at the beginning, when your tank is new and cycling, all the toxic gases cannot escape the tank. So and it will harm your whole ecosystem and your plants. And I had a hard cycle for this tank. The first 2 weeks, I noticed a lot of hydrogen sulfide here, and so I had to change water sometimes even twice a day. And eventually, of course, it will stabilize, it will be stable once plants start growing in their full potential. But again, to avoid this hard cycling, I recommend you to add sand only up to 2-3 centimeters thick. But once you pass that cycling, once your aquarium is matured and stabilized, actually that thickness of your substrate will be very beneficial for a long term for your tank, and will bring that stability, a long-term stability for your tank. It's just sometimes difficult for the first month, but then once everything is stabilized, if you changed water frequently, if you added bacteria and water conditioner, if you use tap water, then eventually all the plants will start growing and the whole ecosystem will be stabilized, and all the bacteria will live in that thick substrate, which will be your biological filtration together with the plants. And actually the first scape in this tank, I used Rotala Red, and as I told you before, you can use Rotala Red even this is a demanding plant. It needs CO2. You can use Rotala, but you have to expect it to grow well only, I would say, first 6 months, because after a few trimmings it won't easily recover from the trimmings, and then the CO2 level will be dropped and the nutritious substrate will get old, so Rotala won't look as nice as it looks at the beginning. And so this is the first scape I made, and this is the first few months of my first scape in this tank, and it was with me for 2 years. And as you can see, the Rotala Red was very healthy, very nice there. It was growing very fast. It was very red and beautiful. But after 6 months, it started growing not as bright red as before. It stopped recovering after trimming. So eventually I removed it and replaced it with the green plant. So again, if you want to have a low-tech aquarium and aquarium with no filter, you have to use the right plants. Some demanding plants, and you cannot use demanding plants that needs a high level of CO2. And in this new scape, I only used the hardy plants, the low demanding plants, the same list of plants as I used for all my scapes. The light I'm using here is also a very old one, since the first scape for this bowl, and it still works well. It's 20 baht, it's called Xima. You can find the link to this light also in my storefronts. The link will be in the description below. For the animals, I use Ember Tetra, the group of Ember Tetra. They're very active and they're much brighter. They were imported from China, and all the ember fish I find in Vietnam that was imported from China, they're much brighter color and they're much more interactive and friendly and much more active. The ember fish that was raised in Vietnam is looking different. It's not as bright and it's very shy, but Chinese Ember Tetra is much more active. I also got some shrimp here and snails. And this is another small bowl tank, and it's very messy. I don't do anything with that. I actually need to give it a good trim and place all the plants in order so they look nice. At the moment it looks very messy, but it's also a very old tank. It's 2.5 years. I need to trim that plant. I didn't plant it. It appeared with another plant and started growing. I don't really like it. I need to completely remove it. I got some Ludwigia there, which I want to grow immersed, but I don't know, for some reason it grows just a little bit over there like this, but it doesn't really grow more immersed in this tank. I got a bit of Sagittaria there. It was at the beginning a mossy tank with lots of moss, but I did not take care of that moss. I didn't trim it, so there are still some moss, but most of it I removed. So this tank really needs some work. I got a little bit of raspberry there and some shrimp in this tank. The light I'm using here is the same light, 5 watt, with the wooden stand. For the bacteria base, I used river pebbles in this tank and the same mixture of substrate. Now let's move to these 2 Iwagumi bowls, which I created 1.5 years ago. The time is so fast. I feel like I made it just yesterday, but it's already mature tanks. And yeah, also filterless, no CO2, both Iwagumi style. I call this one Mom and Son. The Son is filled only with hair grass. There were a little bit of Monte Carlo, but I feel like the shrimp were eating all the Monte Carlo, and now there is only hair grass growing. This tank is with the Monte Carlo carpet. There was a little bit of moss started growing, and I didn't remove that moss and I didn't trim it, so it started covering all the Monte Carlo, and the Monte Carlo started dying, and it got thinner. So I tried to remove as much of this moss as possible, but because it was growing for a very long time, it was very hard to remove, and it's still there, but I'm trying to cut it and remove it every time I change water here, because as I said before, the moss can be messy and can bring a mess to your tank. So if you notice any moss growing which you don't want to grow, remove it immediately, otherwise it will cover all your plants and bring you a lot of headache. At the background there is the hydrophila. At the background there is hydrophila. At the background there is Hydrophila tripatita plant. It actually didn't grow at the beginning, but once this tank is matured, now it started actually growing. Sometimes plants don't grow for a very long time, but once something happens, they start eventually growing. It also happens with Anubias barteri. If you plant Anubias barteri in your new tank, you might see it melting completely, but you have to be patient, and after some time, sometimes it can take like up to 6 months, the Anubias barteri will eventually start growing and the new leaves will start appearing, and once it starts growing, it will actually grow very fast. Same with that plant. It didn't grow really at the beginning. It was staying the same size for a very long time, but now you can see it started growing up and covering more space at the background, which I'm actually happy with. This tank was the first time where I experimented with the coconut coir, and I would say that Iwagumi tank, even I used only Monte Carlo here and no more plants. So, and Monte Carlo is not a fast growing plant, even though this tank was very stable from the first day. Until now, I don't have any big issues with that, only because of that moss, and the Monte Carlo here stopped really growing because of that moss, and it's now thinner. Some algae appeared on that spot here, so I hope the algae will gone once the Monte Carlo recovers and start growing again. But I have to remove that moss completely. But now it's so hard to do because I didn't do this when I first saw it. But I didn't do it. But I did not remove that moss, unfortunately, from the first day when I noticed that. For the animals, I have my raspberry here, tiny nano raspberry, some shrimp, and the rocks I used here is called elephant skin rock, a very nice rock for Iwagumi scape. I really like how Iwagumi looks in bowl tanks. For that scape I used the same light, but 5 watt, and 5 watt for this size is just enough. No algae issues, no excess light. So more have some algae if I would use more, but for that volume 5 watt is enough. Even for carpet Monte Carlo to grow. If you want to use Monte Carlo for your low-tech tank, Monte Carlo is not hard plant to grow, even with no CO2. It doesn't require the high level of CO2, but it does require the nutritious substrate. So be sure you provide enough nutrition. Be sure you provide enough nutrients for Monte Carlo growth. And this is teeny tiny 17 centimeters Iwagumi. Eventually I planted some Monte Carlo together with hair grass, but I had a very big colony of shrimp here before, and they were breeding a lot, and because I did not feed them often, I think they started eating that Monte Carlo, and day by day I noticed that there are less and less Monte Carlo every day. So eventually there is no more Monte Carlo and only hair grass is growing. And even this tank is 1.5 years, you can see that hair grass is still looking good. It's still growing, and it actually grows very well in small ecosystems, so it doesn't require the high level of CO2. There is a naturally produced dissolved CO2 in the water column that is enough for that Monte Carlo in that small volume to grow. I only got some snails here and that yellow cute shrimps. I also use 5-watt lamp here, which is too much. I sometimes get some green algae on that rocks, but now I think all the shrimps, they cleaned it, and snails as well, so now rocks are not really green. But if I would use 3 watt for this small tank, that would be better. Alright guys, let's move to this Iwagumi tank. This is the first ball Iwagumi that I made, and it's actually very old. It's 3 years old, and it's very retiring tank. So the carpet, the Monte Carlo, doesn't grow anymore. Well, it still grows. You can see it's still bubbling. There is still some photosynthesis happening, but the substrate is very old, and the Monte Carlo is very thin. It doesn't really grow, and the algae started appearing on it. You can see there are some green algae and brown algae on it. So this tank is one of the first tanks I'm going to rebuild very soon, but I'm going to keep the same hardscape because I really like these black lava rocks. Black lava rocks are just perfect rocks for hardscape. You can use any pieces of black lava rock and they always look great. So I'm going to keep the same style, the same hardscape, just going to remove all the old substrate and start a new one with fresh substrate, with fresh Monte Carlo plant and some hair grass at the background. I also used some hair grass as well. I placed it somewhere next to the rocks, and it was growing for a very long time, but you can see that there is no more hair grass. There are some beads left, but it doesn't grow anymore because it's very, very old tank. I got some shrimp, some snails, and here for the substrate, the base layer was filled with river pebbles. Because I used the carpet Monte Carlo, and actually the previous 2 aquariums I showed you, I forgot to tell you that I also added some root tubs where you can use flower fertilizer, small balls to add into the substrate as additional nutrients when you use carpet plant, because Monte Carlo and other carpet plants, they're highly nutrient demanding plants. So I also used here, together with the vermicast and the clay based substrate, the regular aquarium soil, and I added some root tubs as well, which provided all the nutrients for the carpet plant to grow for long term. I'm going to show you the picture of that tank when it was young, the first 1-2 years. So that's how it looked when it was young, freshly filled and grown with Monte Carlo, very green, very fresh. The hair grass is also visible there. Here you can see how this tank looked when it was young. Look at that hair grass. It was feeling very well, growing very well. Look at that carpet, completely filled with Monte Carlo. It was so beautiful, so fresh. But yeah, now it's retired and needs to be updated. And this is another tank, one of my favorite balls, very stable ecosystem as well. This pearlweed is actually overgrown. I need to cut it. It covers the half, you can see what's behind that. I call this bonsai tree, so I got the dead bonsai tree there and I planted Anubias nano on it. There is Hylantium tinellum as the foreground plant, some Cryptocarina parva over there, and yeah, that's all. And some Anubias behind that pearlweed, and I really need to give it a trim. Here I have shrimps, I have tiny nano raspberry group and snails. I made this tank in June 2023, so it's very matured, but still very beautiful, very stable, so I don't need to rescape it. It's still alive and doesn't need to be updated. You can see that even the substrate there is actually when I built this tank, actually when I got that pearl wheat, I thought that Monte Carlo, because when you buy pearl wheat in its immersed form, it looks like Monte Carlo. So at that day I could not recognize, at that time I couldn't say what's the difference in, at that time I didn't see the difference in Monte Carlo and pearl wheat in its immersed form. They look very similar. So I actually wanted to make carpet plant in that corner, but then I noticed that this plant started growing up and changing to pearl wheat, and well, now I'm happy that this is pearl wheat, because with that pearl wheat, if I cut it, the whole scape looks much better than if it was the carpet plant here. I also need to glue Anubias back to the wood because now it's almost floating. The glue doesn't work anymore because this tank is old. So next time when I change water, I will cut the Monte Carlo, the pearl wheat, and I will glue the Anubias back to the wood so it doesn't float. You can see some raspberries, my lovely tiny raspberries are swimming there. The same light with wooden stand is here. I use 9 watt here, same with the previous Iwagumi. I also use 9 watt for this size. This bowl is 35 centimeters in diameter, so 9 watt is usually enough for this volume. Let's take a look at this bowl. This is also a very old bowl. I made it in May 2023, and I call this bowl Bucephalandra bowl because I used a lot of Bucephalandra. You can see all over there and going to the back. Also some Anubias nano PT, some Tinellum grass, some moss on the wood, and some Cryptocarina spiralis at the background. And also there is a little bit of echinodorus growing out. Also 9 watt light here, and actually this tank is very stable, but it wasn't stable in the first month. Once I made it, because I used that big piece of wood, this piece of wood created a very dirty and toxic water, and so I had to change water every day for like maybe 2 weeks. I changed it every day, adding bacteria and waiting it to stabilize. But I knew that even I have a hard cycling process, I know that eventually the tank will be stabilized. You just have to be patient and continue changing water often, adding bacteria, water conditioner, and if you use enough plants, everything will go well. And now this tank shows a very stable ecosystem since 2023. I also used sand there, and the sand is not as thick as in some of my other tanks. And what I noticed, guys, is that I think that from my experience, the most stable aquariums is where I used sand covering the substrate. Not all of them are most stable. For example, that previous one is not covered with the sand, but this tank is also very stable. But all the tanks where I used 3 or 4 centimeters of sand covering the substrate, the soil, I think it creates that extra thickness of the substrate, which is very beneficial for bacteria to live and colonize, and in the future it will bring you a lot of stability to your tank. So if you want to use the sand, for sure you have to use it, but do not make it too thick. For the fish, I have a couple of rosy tetra here. They are so cute, and they are 3 years in this tank. They are also very hardy fish, and I also had a very big amount of shrimp in this tank for a very long time. And guys, just a day before I started making this video, sadly, I found that shrimp on the floor. Unfortunately, I don't know why and how, but it jumped, and sadly I found that mama shrimp on the floor. Unfortunately, somehow it jumped out of the tank. I don't know why, maybe just stupidly. I don't know how it happens, but I found the shrimp quite far from this tank, so I think it's tried to jump on the floor. And yeah, I'm so sad because that shrimp was so big, and the ball tanks also magnify everything. So everything you see now is actually bigger than the actual size of the plants and the wood, everything, all the decorations. And it also magnifies the fish and the shrimp. So this Amana shrimp was actually very big. Yes, you can see it's actually very big, and it was huge in the tank. It was looking very big. So I'm so sad it's not there anymore. Well, it happens. Sometimes I find fish on the floor, sometimes fish escaping the tank. Well, that happens. It's sad, but that's how it is. Alright guys, now let's look at this 60 centimeters Paludarium tank, which I made a long time ago. I think it's already like 3 years old. Guys, I don't even use the filter here. The only thing I do is changing water here. And what I love about this aquarium is that look at this Ludwigia that is growing here. It grows immersed here, and it's so beautiful. I will try to reduce the light so you can see better. Look at this, guys. Look at that Ludwigia. It grows just beautifully. Look at that. And the substrate is very old in this tank. I don't know how this Ludwigia gets enough nutrients to grow like that, but it grows very well in its immersed form. Look, there's complete carpet of Ludwigia here. And again, no filter, no CO2. I also got a bit of Mordania Kesak here. Ficus pumila is growing here. Some of these plants I found just on the street. I tried it as a Paludarium plant, and it's also growing well. Yeah, look at that Ludwigia. And it continues growing. The light I'm using here is Chihiro's A2 series. I sticked it to that table here. I only have snails here. I don't have shrimp or fish in this tank. So this tank is just living its life. The only thing I do here is changing water, adding bacteria and water conditioner. That's all. I don't even trim that Ludwigia. I did a few cuttings to add to my other ball Paludarium tanks, but I just let this Ludwigia grow here. Alright guys, this is my 40 centimeters shallow tank with no filter and no CO2. And this is also quite old tank. I made it in 2023. I really like the scape here with that 2 pieces of wood growing from there to there. I got some Anubias there, some pearlweed over there, some moss on the wood, and a little bit of tin nylon, but just like this one, not much. I also experimented with, so this tank is also very matured, quite old, but I still like the hardscape. The look is still fine. I only got snails and some raspberry here. Previously I had some shrimp here, but they were old and there is no more shrimp anymore. So again, you can have small aquarium even with no filter. The external filter is just an extra biological filtration for your tank. But for small ecosystem, if you provide that base layer where your substrate is thick enough, all the bacteria will live in your substrate and will filter your water together with the plants. So this tank is very budget, small ecosystem with no extra gear. The light I use here is 14 watt light like this. I think it's called Tuya or something. It has an app where you can set up the timer through the app, set up the color, the spectrum. I use just standard spectrum, like all my lights, just white light similar to the sunlight. I never use any lights like purple or pink or just red light. These or green light. These lights are not suitable for the plant growth. Just neutral, natural sunlight spectrum, 6.5 thousand Kelvin is the right spectrum for the plant growth. And this is my ugly one, also old ugly tiny 30 centimeters shallow tank with no filter, no CO2. And I got a lot of Mordania Kisak overgrown here and some mosses. There was some grass growing, the tinellum grass growing there, but it doesn't grow anymore. I also made the mistake with that tank because it's very small. I also didn't add enough nutritious substrate, enough thickness of that nutrients. I did not provide enough, and so the total thickness of that nutritious substrate wasn't enough for the plants for long term, for the plants to grow. And now the ecosystem here is not very stable because the plants are not growing well anymore. Only Mordania Kisak. There are some Bucephalandra there, some Anubias still there. But yeah, I would like to rescape this tank. And next time, for such small tanks, I have to be sure that I provide enough soil for the plant growth. Especially if I want to use the foreground plants, I have to be sure that under that layer of sand there is enough substrate, enough aquarium soil for the plant to grow and for their roots to also spread. The light I'm using here is the same as in the previous tank. Also, I think that is called Tuya or something. There are so many similar lights like this. It doesn't matter what brand you use, just choose the correct spectrum and intensity for your tank. It depends on the size you use. Alright guys, this is my shallow aquarium. It's 60 centimeters long, 30 centimeters wide and 20 centimeters high. It's 2 years old. It's very matured aquarium. I have plenty of immersed plants here, and the most beautiful thing about this aquarium is that Anubias nanopetit is growing beautifully here in its immersed form. At the moment it looks a bit messy because the fern started growing not here, not immersed like it was growing previously. Well, there are some fern still, but most of it started growing submersed this way. So I actually have to give a good maintenance to this tank, and I will do it very soon. I want to replace that fern from there to its immersed form, so more green, so that space will be more green and more dense. You can see that this fern is growing here, so I want to completely remove it from there and replace it because it's covering the whole hardscape here. I don't like it. I also got some Cryptocorinna venti as the background plant, some Hylanthum tinellum, Cryptocorinna parva just a little bit. Over there you can see some Physidians phantanus moss growing, Anubias in its submersed form over there, Anubias nanopetit, some Anubias nanopetit also over there. But this aquarium was mainly focused on immersed plants, so the front of this tank is completely empty but looks very natural. Let's take a look at all the submersed plants. Let's take a look at all the immersed plants. So here for the immersed plants I used that Mordania Kisak again. It's one of the best immersed form plants that you can use for your tank. Also some fern leaves you can see here, Actually, I think this was the first tank when I realized that Java Firm can grow beautifully and very nice in its immersed form. And guys, look at this Anubias here. Look at all of that. Look, at the beginning, I just planted a few small bushes on the wood. So this Anubias is attached to the piece of wood, which is half submerged, so it's always wet, always moist, and all the roots of the Anubias are also submerged, so only leaves and stems are immersed, so they keep that moist all the time. They don't dry out, the leaves stay healthy and very green all the time. Even in the summer, when I use aircon in my studio, the leaves are still moist enough because the roots are constantly in the water. The piece of wood is always wet and provides all the moist for the Anubias. Look at that leaves, and it's still growing wider. It covered all that area. It's going to the back over there. It's going to that side there. It's just beautiful. I really love Anubias Nano Petit, and that is one of the best Anubias species that you can use for the immersed form. The Mordania Kisar also looks a bit messy. I didn't trim it for a while, but you know, nature actually cannot be messy. Nature, even when it's messy, the nature is always beautiful. Do you agree? Yes, of course you are. And I also got some floating plants, but guys, to be honest, that duckweed, the small duckweed, I never buy it, and I didn't buy it before, so it always appeared in my tanks, and it was spreading through all my tanks naturally together with other plants. And sometimes it gets very annoying, that especially that small duckweed. I really like that big duckweed like this. This one is nice. It's not annoying. It doesn't grow too fast, and it doesn't get sucked by the filter, you know, and it doesn't create that mess in the tank. But well, I got it. I cannot completely remove it. So what I do is, when I maintain it, I remove almost all of that small duckweed from the tank. Not sure if you can see the layers of the substrate. So the nutritious substrate was only placed in that corner for all the immersed plants only, and some at the back for the cryptic arena. No nutritious substrate at the front because there are no plants being planted. And so here I used river pebbles, the first layer. Then I see that I used here I think I used a bit of coconut coir here, a bit of vermicast, a little bit of clay-based substrate that I buy locally. It's locally produced, and the regular aquarium soil, and everything is covered with sand here. And this tank is 2 years old, and even though it's still looking fine, just needs a good maintenance, trimming, a good trimming, and yeah, it's still looking good. And I use a very small filter, a nano filter for that size of the tank. And again, as I told you before, your external filter is just an extra filtration for your tank. It is not the main filter for your tank. Your plants and your bacteria that lives inside the substrate, that is the main filter for your tank. And I'm going to prove it to you, because you will see now how small is my filter for this tank. So you can see that is the only filter I use for this tank. So it's size of my hand. It's nano filter. There is outlet and inlet, and I clean this filter maybe only once in 6 months or even a year. And you can see that the tank is very stable, no algae issues, the plants are happy, the shrimp here. I have some Amano shrimp here. I have some Neocaridina shrimp here. I got some nano raspberry there. Snails, of course. You can see the shrimp is sitting over there. And everyone is happy. This tank is very healthy. It doesn't want to be retired. It's still looking good. It just needs a good spot to look as new again. The light I use here is 60 centimeters Chihiro's series B. Yeah, and this light is quite, the spectrum of the light is also the right spectrum. The plants are happy with that light, and one lamp like this is more than enough for that size. I also have some Bucephalandra planted somewhere deep there, so it's already covered with the fern, with the Anubias. Not going to try to find it, but there are some Bucephalandra as well. It's like half submerged, half immersed. For the rocks I used river rocks, very nice actually. I really like the color of the pebbles for this scape and the color of the rocks. And if I find these rocks once again, I will for sure buy more of it, because it gives that red color. Some stripes are red and the pebbles are also red. Really creates a nice color scape. Right guys, and this is the final low-tech, no CO2 tank before we move to my 4 high-tech tanks with CO2. And yeah, this tank I created last summer, so it's like 5 months old, and yeah, looks very nice. I really like the scape. It's so beautiful, very natural. And here I, for the first time, used a new species of Bucephalandra. It's over there, if you can see it. I'm going to move it closer. You can see that Bucephalandra over there. It's very beautiful, and I will use that Bucephalandra. If I see it on sale, I will buy it more, and I will use it for my other scapes. It's bigger than other Bucephalandra species, but it would be very nice creating the scape together with small species of Bucephalandra and bigger ones. It grows very well. It's very hardy plant, so in this tank with no CO2, no fertilizers, it stays very beautiful and healthy. So this species is definitely the one you can use for your low-tech tank. I'm not sure exactly about the name of that species, because you know, each plant also has many different species and names are so hard to remember, but it looks like this. So the leaves are longer, bigger, and they are more like oval shape leaves. Very nice. And I tried that Bucephalandra when I built that scape. I tried this Bucephalandra also as immersed, and I placed it there on the wood where the moist part is still touching the water, so the root stays moist, but it didn't help, and most of that Bucephalandra dried out, so it doesn't work with that species. There is still, if you can see, there is a tiny bit of that Bucephalandra still there, and it still doesn't dry out completely, but yeah, it doesn't grow really. So I just replaced it with some Java fern over there. For the background plants I used the Crypticarina Becketti. You can see how red and short it is in low-tech tank. Creates that very nice middle ground plant and add that red spots for the tank, which is very nice. Also Crypticarina Benti over here and some Sagittaria. So the mistake with this tank I made is that I did not add enough layer of nutritious substrate for the Crypticarina, so it should be thicker. You can see that nutritious substrate is only here like this thick, plus a bit of sand, but actually that would be best if I would make like this thick substrate. Then all the Crypticarina and Sagittaria would grow much better, would look much healthier. And because I did not provide enough substrate and enough nutritious substrate for it, it is growing, but it doesn't feel as good as it would grow and feel in the thicker substrate. And because it doesn't grow really well, I got some algae in this tank. You can see some algae on the sand, some algae appearing on the moss on the wood there. So what I'm going to do soon with that tank, you can actually fix that, and I will fix it. So I'm going to add a few more centimeters of aquarium soil and maybe a little bit of vermicast as well. So I'm going to make the nutritious substrate higher. I'm going to cover it with the sand as well, but only the back. And I will get maybe 1 or 2 fresh bushes of Cryptocarina to plant it extra. And I'm sure that after a few weeks, all this background plant will show me a new growth and much better growth, and they will fight the algae I have in this tank. So overall, this tank is very nice. I got some Neocaridina shrimp. There are a lot of them. You can see them right now. And I also got three Galaxy Raspberry for the first time here. Actually, if you want to, that one, it's over there. They are very shy. You can see that Raspberry Galaxy at the back over there. There are 3 of them. Actually, there should be a group of at least 6 of them, but in the store I really like them and they only had 3 left. Since then I didn't see them anymore. If I see this, I would get 3 more for them to be happier, but even 3 of them are feeling pretty well. They are very active, very beautiful fish. I also added a tiny nano raspberry group here for them not to be bored in this tank, because they can be friends with shrimps, I think. So, but they can be shrimps, but they can be friends with other raspberry species. As you already noticed, I'm a big fan of raspberry fish because from my experience, any raspberry fish is always the hardest fish from all other I used. So they don't get sick easily, they're very hardy fish, they're very adaptive to a new environment, they're not demanding to the water quality, to the temperature of water. So I'm so happy with any raspberry I have. And look at this Raspberry Galaxy, look, it's coming. It looks so nice, it has very nice colors. So for sure, if you see any like nano raspberry or like this Galaxy raspberry or raspberry Harley Quinn raspberry, all of them are very hardy fish and you can use them for sure. I also have some Anubias non-appetit, of course, on the rocks over there, together with that new species of Bucephalandra, and some fern in its submerged form as well. And the light I use here is called F-Zone light. It's 20 watt, and for this 50 centimeters aquarium, it is also shallow, but it's 50 centimeters long. It's 30 centimeters wide and 20 centimeters high, and the plants are happy just with one lamp like this, the right spectrum, and it all only the size of the half of this tank, but the light is enough for all the background plants, because only Cryptocarina actually is the most demanding light plant from others. For the filter, I use again a budget, not expensive filter, just one. I'm going to show you. So I use this small sun filter like this. That's all. Of course, I upgraded it. If you want to see, I added some other types of sponges. I added more bacteria media, and yeah, that's all. And it's working perfectly. And for your low-tech tank, you don't really need more. Alright guys, that's all for the low-tech aquariums. We've covered all of them. All of these tanks that you see now are all low-tech tanks with no CO2, with no liquid fertilizers, with no expensive gear, just pure nature and balance. And remember, for the low-tech tank, you have to follow some key important things to have your tank healthy and stable through years. The first key is the nutritious substrate. The first key is the bacteria base substrate. The first key is the bacteria base for your aquarium, where the biological filtration will be established by beneficial bacteria that you can use lava rock or river pebbles or expanded clay for. The second key is the nutritious substrate that you can also use any aquarium soil, some vermicast, some coconut coir, and some root tubs if you use carpet plants like Monte Carlo. The third key is the big mass of plants for your aquarium. If you provide a nutritious substrate, you have to provide enough plants to absorb all of the nutrients from that substrate. If you use a nutritious substrate but you don't use enough plants, then algae will start growing because you will have excess nutrients in your aquarium. The fourth key is to use the right plants for your low-tech aquarium. The hardy species, low-tech species plants. For the plants you can use for your low-tech aquarium, I made another video that you can find on my channel. The key number 5 is the appropriate and the right spectrum light. Just a natural white, like sunlight spectrum. 6,500 Kelvin, and the intensity should be right for the size of your aquarium. I also have another video that I'm talking about light, and you can find that video on my channel as well. The key number 6 is to use beneficial bacteria, bottled beneficial bacteria, and tap water conditioner if you use tap water for your tank. The photo period for all my low-tech aquariums is 6 hours a day, automatically turned off and on by the timer. No liquid fertilizers needed for your low-tech aquarium as soon as you provided enough nutrients in your substrate. And remember, do not overload your aquarium with fish, and do not overfeed your fish. That is very important. And remember, first 4 weeks of your new low-tech tanks are very important. Frequent water changes and maintenance routine is very important. The exact schedule of changing water and maintaining your new aquarium you can find in the description of every video on my channel. Alright guys, now it's finally time to take a look at my high-tech tanks with CO2. But I would say my high-tech tanks are also quite budget. I do not use super expensive substrate, I do not use super expensive lights, I don't use super expensive filters. I always try to get everything as cheap as possible, because high-tech tanks already require a lot of gear, a lot of equipment and resources. And because I have so many tanks, I don't want to spend too much money even on high-tech tanks. But even though I don't spend too much money on super expensive equipment, you can see that this tank is looking super beautiful and natural. I also have a very basic, the standard CO2 system kit. I don't dissolve CO2 in the filter or in the pre-filter. It's just a standard system with a diffuser, with the tube going to the CO2 balloon, that's all. And some of the plants look completely different in tanks with CO2, for example. And can you see that reddish color Cryptocarina at the background over there? This is actually the same Cryptocarina becketii that I was talking about before. That Cryptocarina becketii in low-tech tank is very short and much smaller than here. And here, look, it's very tall, it's almost touching the surface. The leaves are much longer, it is a bit different color, it's more reddish. And so I'm so happy. I felt like I have to plant this cryptocorinna in this tank at the background, and that was the right choice because I did not expect it to grow so tall and completely different. There is also cryptocorinna lucens. I also use that cryptocorinna lucens in my low-tech bowl. I actually forgot to show it to you in my biggest bowl. And in that low-tech bowl, this cryptocorinna lucens is much shorter and its leaves are just green. And here, look, it's brown. In tanks with CO2, it actually grows much taller, the leaves are much bigger, and the color is also different. The Bucephalandra in tanks with CO2 are brighter color, it's more red and reddish color, and it's shimmery, so the leaves are shining under the light, which is very nice. The moss is growing with CO2 much thicker, and I have to trim it often, but I don't usually trim it in my low-tech tank, or at least I do it rarely. The tinellum is also different. It grows taller. Well, the mother bushes that I planted over here, I knew that these mother bushes will be longer and thicker, and all the baby tinellum is growing now much shorter and creates that carpet in the foreground. And also tinellum with CO2 has a bit more red color leaves. With no CO2 it almost stays green all the time. I also have Anubias nano, I have Java fern over there, and some other species of Bucephalandra on the wood over there as well. So actually for this high-tech tank I used almost all the plants, low-tech plants, almost all the hardy plants. So honestly, you would have the same scape with no CO2, and the plants would also be healthy, but just look a little bit different. So if that would be a low-tech tank with no CO2, that cryptocorinna at the background wouldn't be so tall, so maybe the scape would look, overall scape would look. And for this tank I also tried a new immersed plants, which I don't really have success with all of them. I will show you the submersed part. I will show you the immersed part now. So initially as immersed plants, I planted that mini bamboo here and that umbrella plant over here. You can see one umbrella is growing like that. But overall, this plant doesn't grow very well. I think I did not provide the right substrate for this plant. I also, when I planted it, I just put it on the surface of the sand. I thought all the roots will find the way to the substrate, but maybe they did not, and they were just melting. So the overall, this immersed bamboo and umbrella plant don't really grow. Some of the stems are still alive, they're staying there, but I don't see huge, beautiful green growth from them. So I will know it for the future, and probably I won't use these plants anymore. But look at this Hygrophila pinnatifida. And with this tank, I realized that Hygrophila pinnatifida can grow beautifully in its immersed form. Look at this. And look at the leaves are getting red because these leaves are very close to the light source. Let's look at another end. Look at the Hygrophila here. So if you want to use Hygrophila pinnatifida as a immersed plant, you can do it for sure. And all you have to do is just place it into the water and fix it somewhere to the wood or between other plants. So all the roots get submersed, but the rest of it can be immersed and it doesn't dry up. There are some Java fern growing out as well. For the nutritious substrate, I use the same mix as for all my tanks, and also the bacteria base here, and everything was covered with the natural golden color sand. And this tank is already 7 months old. I created it in July last summer, and it's already matured and looking and looking fully grown and beautiful, very natural. I have some shrimp here, some algae eaters, and the sad thing about this aquarium is that you can see the lumpy killifish is over there. So I got them, a group of them for this tank, but now it's winter in Hanoi and I wasn't in Hanoi for a few days, and during these few days the temperature at night dropped too low and I didn't have heater for this tank. I thought that this lumpy killifish will be fine, but most of them unfortunately did not survive the cold water. So now I know that this killifish is not really hardy fish. They're sensible, they're sensitive to the water temperature. If you want to have them, be sure that you have a heater for the cold days in your aquarium. So to replace them, I'm not going to buy them again. To replace them, I will just find another group of nano raspberry fish, and I want a lot of them because they're very tiny, and I think nano fish, a big group of nano fish for this scape would look just amazing. You can see there is a big bush, a very tall bush of Helanchium tinellum as well. That was a mother bush, and look how tall it is growing in tanks with CO2. Right, for the filtration also, the filtration system is very budget. Even I have two filters here. One is pre-filter with no motor, so the first water comes there. There are only sponges. I added some extra sponges there. And the main filter is bigger, and there are some bacteria media and some other sponges as well. So this filtration system is very budget and affordable. You can also find the sun filters through my links in the description below. I use these two lights here. This is actually a very nice light, and you can find the similar light also through my links. I got two of them, and each of them is 50 watt, which is quite too much for this size. I realized it only after, of course, I set up this tank. I would actually buy two of them with 35 watt each, and that would be just perfect. But 50 watt each for the 30 centimeters high aquarium, and its length is 90 centimeters. It's 35 centimeters wide, and yeah, so for that short aquarium there is a little bit too much light. I got some algae at the top of the wood on the plants, which I have to remove manually every maintenance, but overall this algae cannot compete all the plants, all the high plants that I have here, so the algae don't grow really much here. I also use, of course, liquid fertilizers for this high-tech tank. I add macro and micro fertilizers 3 times a week, and the plants are pretty happy here. Alright, and this is my second high-tech tank, also with standard CO2 system, with the same hang-on filter that I showed you before for my low-tech tanks. Also upgraded filter with some extra sponges and some bacteria media. The same mix of the substrate with some golden natural sand as well. For the plants I used here some Java fern. Initially I used the Hygrophila pinnatifida in its submerged form, but I don't know, for some reason it's hard to maintain the balance in your high-tech tank with all the nutrients, CO2 and so on. I don't know, maybe because I use tap water, and tap water is not suitable for submerged form of Hygrophila pinnatifida, which I showed you previously in its immersed form over there. So submerged form did not work for this tank. I think because I'm using tap water, maybe it needs a very soft water, and my tap water is not as soft as RO water or bottled water. It didn't work, and I replaced it with the Java fern, some moss on the wood. There is some Anubias nanobitis, some Cryptocarina parva, and background plant is Vallisneria nana, and with CO2 it's much more juicy and green. And there are some Cryptocarina spiralis, like a mix together with Vallisneria nana, and actually I will never do it again. That mix of Cryptocarina spiralis and Vallisneria nana with some of these plants. I would use only one of these plants because they both grow quite fast, and sometimes they just create such a jungle. They overgrown a lot. So recently I did a very big trim for this tank, so I cut more than a half of all the Cryptocarina and Vallisneria, just taking scissors and just cut everything very short. And yeah, so now there is now it's not covering all the lights for other plants. There are more space for fish to swim, so that's too much Cryptocarina and Vallisneria, but well, let it be like this. For the future I will know that, especially in high-tech tank with CO2, all the plants are growing much faster, so I had to consider it when I was buying it. But well, every aquarium teaches us something, so now I know. And actually that Cryptocarina spiralis I would only next time use for very tall aquariums, because it grows very tall. It needs much higher tank and much bigger tanks. For the animals here, you can see I have that beautiful tetra, two of them or three, I don't remember, but it's just beautiful. It's shimmering and it's changing color, depends on the angle you look at it. So sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's purple, like beautiful purple color. The name of that tetra is quite hard to remember. Where is it? But I'm sure if you see it in the store, you would remember it and you would recognize that fish, because that color is the only tetra species that has that beautiful color. It's called something blue, something else. I don't really remember, but I'm so happy with that fish. It's actually showing a very stable health. So it's a quite hardy fish and very active fish, which is nice. So I will know for the future, and if I see it, I would buy some more for my future tanks. I also got some Neocaridina shrimps, as always, and Nerite snails. And the light I'm using here is Chihira's A2 series, same as for one of my low-tech tanks. And the one lamp like this is enough. You can see that all the plants are growing. Vallisneria is growing crazy with Cryptocarina, so the plants are happy. And all other plants at the bottom, which are mosses and Anubias, they don't need a lot of light, so they get just enough. Guys, this is my 30 centimeters cube high-tech tank, also standard CO2 system. Alright, and this is my 30 centimeters high-tech cube, also with standard CO2 system, with a very cheap light. This called Helios Nano Pro light. It's very cheap light, and look at the Ludwigia and Rotala red there. I recently trimmed that tank a few days ago completely. I removed all the Rotala and all the Ludwigia. I cut and throw away almost all of that because it was overgrown all over the tank. So I planted just the best pieces of it, and after a few days it's already up there, and it's growing very fast with CO2, and it's very juicy red, nice color. Of course, I'm using also liquid fertilizer, which gives that fast nutrients for these plants to grow fast and to have that bright and nice color. I also have Anubias Nano Petit all over the black lava rocks there. I also got Bucephalandra. Over there, some Cryptocarina there, Pisidians Phantanos moss over there. And that's all for the plants, and just a little bit of Tinellum. Initially I planted hair grass over there. Actually, Pisidians Phantanos moss also appeared on that rock by itself. I didn't plant it there, and look, it's growing, it's covering the rock, looks very nice. And initially I planted the hair grass there, but because the light is not really intensive. So this light is very cheap. So that light is enough for Ludwigia and and Rotala to be happy and grow well. All other plants don't really require high intensity of light, but hair grass at the bottom did require high intense light, but it didn't get that light enough, so it didn't grow well, and eventually I just removed it and replaced it with one bush of Tinellum, and even Tinellum doesn't want to grow here. I don't know why. For the filter, again, the same hang-on filter that I use for all my tanks. The same mix substrate. The bacteria base here, I think I used fine lava rock here. And I think one more week and this Rotala and Ludwigia will be just so bright, so beautiful. It will be bushy, so there won't be any gaps, any empty space. I think tomorrow maybe I will cut that top again and I will replant it at the back or at the front right here, and it actually recovers with CO2 pretty fast and with liquid fertilizers. Alright guys, finally this is the last tank. Alright guys, this is the least but not last tank in my studio, and that is the fourth high-tech Iwagumi style tank, which is 2.5 years old already, which is 1.5 years old. So first, when I built it, I wanted it actually to be more with Monte Carlo, and I planted a lot of Monte Carlo together with the hair grass, but somehow hair grass started growing much faster than Monte Carlo, and eventually over time that hair grass took over all the space, and eventually the Monte Carlo all gave up and died. And then after also some time I had some Tinellum leftovers, and I wanted it to plant only at the background because it was empty, there was not enough light for the hair grass to grow well, so I planted Tinellum there, and then Tinellum started growing all over the tank, and now I have a mix of Tinellum and hair grass growing together, creating that very nice dense hairy. I also have standard CO2 system. I add liquid fertilizers for all high-tech tanks. For the filtration, I have two small nano filters on this side here with the inlet and outlet on that side, very budget and cheap filters, and two other nano filters like this connected with each other as well for that side of the tank. And to be honest, for the Iwagumi layout like this, you need a stronger filtration. To be honest, I would replace these nano filters to one big pre-filter and one big main filter, because I can notice that there is not enough filtration for this tank. Sometimes I get cladophora algae, some hair algae sometimes growing on the grass, so I have to manually remove it sometimes. But overall, this algae don't get all over the tank. I actually did a very heavy trim a week ago for this tank. I didn't give a heavy trimming to this tank for a very long time, so it was really like too much densely, and this tank was like completely overgrown. The grass was too dense and I had to give it a very heavy trim. And from my previous experience, when there was a lot of hair grass, I remember that I also did a very heavy trim for this tank, and my mistake is that I only changed water during right after that heavy trim, but I didn't change water the next day, and that was my mistake, because when you do that heavy trim, all of that grass releases all of that sugars and nutrients from their cutted leaves. And because I didn't change water the next day, the algae started growing very fast because they took all of that nutrients, all of that sugars from the water column. So I learned from that previous mistake, and this time I did that heavy trim. I changed water right after, like big change, more than 50%, And the next day I also changed 50% of water again. I added liquid fertilizers, bacteria, water conditioner, and no algae at all. Everything so far is going well, and I already see some new growth of hair grass as well. And Tinellum, I don't see that it is dying. I think it started recovering, and I think after that heavy trim of Tinellum, it will grow smaller and shorter and will look together with hair grass even better. The light I'm using here is 70 watt big aqua light, 90 centimeters long, same as the aquarium. This aquarium is also 90 centimeters long, 35 centimeters wide and 30 centimeters high. And I use the same substrate. In addition, I added root tubs because initially I used Monte Carlo and hair grass there. For the carpet plant you need some extra nutrients. So there is a vermicast, there is a regular aquarium soil, there is a clay-based substrate and also root tubs in the substrate. And it's 1.5 years old, still looking good, still growing, still requires sometimes trimmings. Yeah, but I would improve the filtration system for this tank. So I will buy a bigger filter and replace it with all these nano filters, and all of that nano filters I would use for my future smaller projects. For the animals, right at the moment I have a group of Neocaridina shrimp, I have yellow, I have red, and I have this Rasbora, Harlequin Rasbora, also a very nice, beautiful and hardy fish. I love them so much. They are not sensitive at all, so I will also use them in the future for my other projects. The photo period for all my 4 high-tech tanks is 8 hours a day, and I do maintenance every single week. I do not skip the maintenance because these are high-tech tanks with liquid fertilizers, with CO2, so the weekly maintenance, the weekly water changes is a must. So I cannot skip it, otherwise I will have algae issues. For all my low-tech tanks, the photo period is 6 hours a day, because everything is very slow in low-tech aquariums, so 6 hours is enough for the period for the plant growth and also to avoid any algae spikes. For the maintenance, I recommend you to change water every week, to do maintenance every week for your low-tech tank. I have so many of them, so for my matured low-tech tanks, I skip 1 week of water changes. So I do it once every 2 weeks. For my new low-tech tanks, I do it weekly, but those which are 1 year or 1.5 year old, fully matured, I do it once every 2 weeks. But I still recommend you to do it weekly. You might skip 1 week, but try to do it weekly, and your plants, your aquarium will always thank you for that. Because plants and bacteria only cannot remove all the excess nutrients, all the chemicals from the water column. So you have to help them. This is closed ecosystem, so the water changes is always essential for any aquariums. And guys, do I want more high-tech tanks? I would say no, I don't want more. I have 4 and I have a lot of job to do with them. 4 high-tech tanks for 1 person is a lot. So that's a lot of gear, that's much more expensive. That's why I love low-tech tanks. Much less work with them, much less budget needed to create a low-tech tank. So these 4 high-techs are enough, and I won't create more. But I still have some space left in my studio. And look at this, what I already have here. I have these 2 completely identical in size tanks, and there is just an example of wood I might use for the scape, and I'm thinking of making a black water tanks, both of them, so they will look similar. So they are almost ready. I'm not going to tell you more yet, so stay tuned for these two amazing new projects. So guys, to finish today's video, I want to mention some of the common mistakes that people do with their low-tech aquariums or filterless aquariums. We're not going to talk about high-techs. This is another part of aquascaping. We are talking about someone who likes something budget, simple, easy to maintain. And the first common mistake is people use too few plants at the start. Low-tech tanks depend entirely on plant mass for nutrients uptake and stability of your tank. So starting with just 20-30% coverage leads to algae, the cloudy water and slow cycling. You need at least 70-90% planting on day one for a stable filterless system. So be sure you plant your tank heavily from the start. The common mistake number 2 is choosing the wrong plants. So using plants that require high CO2 or intense light is a mistake. You have to use only hardy low-tech plants such as Anubias, Bucephalandra, mosses, any species of Cryptocarina, Elanchium tinellum, Leleopsis as well, Elanchium pearlweed, Mordania casac, Vallisneria nana as well. You can use Monte Carlo as a carpet plant for your low-tech tank as well, but for small ecosystems. These slow growers and hardy plants create long-term ecological balance in your tank. Also, one of the common mistakes is that people not using a nutrient-rich substrate. If you want to create a planted low-tech aquarium, you must rely on soil and substrate bacteria. Inert sand-only bottom often fail due to lack of nutrients and bacterial diversity. Changing substrate or deep vacuum disturbs the entire ecosystem. That is also a mistake, that you are touching the deep substrate in your aquarium when you maintain it. And that is another common mistake, that some people over cleaning their tanks. Disturbing the substrate destroys bacteria colonies. So when you maintain your aquarium, you can only catch all the waste from the surface of your substrate, but never go deep into it. Also, one of the common mistakes, adding fish too early, especially for filterless tank. Without a filter, the cycling process is slower but more stable if done right. So adding fish too early leads to ammonia spikes and unstable ecosystem. So best if you do 1, 2 or 3 first weeks plants only, and near it snails like I do. Week 3, 4 or sometimes 5, depends on the aquarium, on the stability. Light stocking of nanofish like raspberries would be best. Also, one of the common mistakes is some people overstocking their aquariums, especially be careful with filterless aquariums, because filterless systems cannot process all the heavy bioload, all the waste. So overstocking your tank with fish creates ammonia issues, plus algae of course. So nano raspberries, shrimp, snails are the ideal residents for your filterless nano low-tech tanks. Also, one of the common mistakes is overfeeding. So most common cause of failure, uneaten food accumulates in substrate, which creates ammonia and then the algae bloom. So for your nano fish, a tiny pinch once a day is enough. I feed my fish once every 2 or 3 days, and it is also enough for them. And I feed them just a little pinch so they can eat it within 20 seconds. Another common mistake is too much light. Strong light without CO2 creates algae domination. So algae love excess lighting and they start growing. Low-tech tanks should use moderate light intensity, 6 or 7 hours daily for the period. Also, some of the common mistakes is overusing bacteria products. So some people use the many different brands and many different combinations of bacteria. People mix multiple bacteria species without understanding interactions. And sometimes they add bacteria every day hoping it fixes everything. I add bacteria only after water change, just a little bit, and if I use bacteria, I use only 1 or 2 brands constantly, aerobic and anaerobic bacteria species. And that's all for today, guys. I hope you are still here and I hope you liked this video. Even it was so long, I tried my best to edit it and to remove all the filler words I made. So apologize for not the perfect video, but I hope it was helpful. So hit the like button, subscribe to my channel. Also don't forget to follow me on my Instagram and TikTok page to see all the updates of all my tanks. Also, if you want to get same materials and equipment that I use in my aquariums, check out the links to my Amazon and AliExpress storefronts in the description below. So you can easily set up your own tank with trusted gear. And if you'd like personal guidance with your aquarium, from planning a setup to solving algae problems and ongoing maintenance, I offer with coaching and consultations through paid subscription on my Telegram chat. That way I can walk you through every step from start to finish and help you to build the aquarium you always wanted. The link will be in the description below as well. And I'll see you in my soon future amazing projects. So stay tuned and goodbye.